That's awesome, the challenge of that. Hey, let me play devil's advocate. Can I do that?
Absolutely.
So you crushed a 21-year record, Mark Kerp's record of the half marathon. Crushed it. Beat his record by 1 minute and 12 seconds in the half marathon in Houston a couple years ago. So, and you were quoted, when I was running the Houston, I was looking at my splits and I was doing 4:30s. I said, I'm having a pretty good day here. I guess so. So let me ask you this. So you crushed that half marathon record. Why not pursue the half marathon as your primary event rather than the full?
Well, for one thing, they don't run the half marathon in the Olympics, so you got to graduate from that one if you're going to do the Olympics. That's a good question, you know. Like, I do like to go back to the half marathon occasionally, but I don't know. There's just something about the marathon that continually draws me into it. And I guess, too, when you look at, like, exciting places to run and, like, things that you dream about as a kid, when you think about, you know, if I were to run a marathon, is always, like, the Boston Marathon is, like, so huge in the U.S., you know. Like, actually, who I was named after, her dad won the Boston Marathon in 1912, which is kind of crazy. Actually, he's her grandfather. So I kind of feel like I have like a destiny with especially the Boston Marathon, so I'm hoping to add my name to that
You know,
list.
Ryan and I ran against each other in the Boston Marathon this year. No, I'm serious. We did. And I emailed him before the marathon. I said, Ryan, if I can shave an hour and 20 minutes off my time, I'm going to give you a run for the money. And it was so, I thought that was supposed to be funny, like you guys were laughing. He didn't even email me back. Just don't even waste time with guys like that.
Well, it's not even fair for you guys, though, because they put us out in the front, and you guys
Tell me about it. I got a number. I'm back in some jail cell corral 3 miles from the starting line.
I'll tell you what, the start of the Boston Marathon is my favorite start in all of sports. We are hanging out at this church, and then they used to have you walk through a cemetery to get to the starting line, which how cool is that to do that before you go to the starting line? But now they take us around it. I guess some of the Africans were like superstitious about walking through a cemetery, which, whatever. But then we have to go through the masses, we call it, because it's all you guys. And
You mean the ox pen?
And they separate, you know, like.
I do know.
Yeah. They separate for us, and we get to run through it on the way to the starting line, and I just get so amped. I feel like I'm like leading like cavalry into war. It's awesome. Yeah.
So let's go back to this quote, splits 4:30s. I said, I'm having a pretty good day here. This is something that'd be interesting for you to talk about. If you're a professional basketball player or a professional baseball player and you're having an off night and it's just not clicking, if you're a baseball player, you got 5 more games this week. Not a big deal. I mean, it is, but you've got a lot of opportunities to redeem yourself on that. Even if you're a professional football player, you got 16 games, whatever you got. You as an elite marathoner have 2, maybe 3, and there's a question on wisdom if you would do that. You don't get a lot of opportunities. You got a bad day, you got a bad year. Kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough. And there's also only one guy who wins, you know? It's like you could have a great day on the other team of losing team and still be like, hey, I had a great day, and take something away from it. In our sport, I guess you can always get personal best, but the older you get, the less that those come. So it has its challenges being a professional marathoner for sure. And yeah, because you're always, it's so black and white too. You can always compare yourself to yourself or to your competitors, and so there's some real challenges to face.
Yeah. In London, where you ran your PR, 2:06, which is screaming, you said that last mile was the hardest mile of your life. Physically, emotionally, mentally, tell us a little bit about that mile.
Yeah, the last mile, I didn't even remember this, but the finish of the London Marathon, you run right past Buckingham Palace. Didn't have a clue I ran past Buckingham Palace. I didn't feel anything except for everything hurting. My forearms were hurting, and yeah, it was just all a blur, honestly. And it's one of those things where you just keep looking at your watch and the signs on the side of the road, and you're like, I got to be getting close. And when you finally get to that finish line, I think they showed the end there in the video clip. I was a happy guy to get there. That was the hardest I've ever run in my entire life.
Yeah. well, it's the fastest marathon you've ever done. That would it seem like there would be a correspondence there.
Well, you'd think so, but actually, like when I ran Houston, I ran the half marathon. That was one of the easiest races I ever ran. And I think you see that a lot in running, where people who have really special days, they'll bounce around and jog a victory lap, and they're still feeling great. And that's one of the fun things about showing up on the starting line every single time is you never know. Like, no matter how your training's gone, there's always that possibility that you could hit that. I like to call it an Elijah day, when he outran the chariot to Jezreel. Yeah. I'm like, man, that could happen to me. Doesn't matter what happened yesterday. That could happen to me today. And so
that's an interesting thing, a little play on words, because the winner of the Boston Marathon, his last name was Chariot.
And the guy who won the year before that,
Chariot.
or 2 years ago.
Yeah, another Robert Chariot, but a different one.
Yeah,
how odd is that?
I know, I got to beat the Chariot.
Yeah, run past the Chariot. Okay, so let's go back to 8th grade. You run around Big Bear Lake, and you said at the end of that, you felt like God had impressed these words on your heart or mind or whatever. One day you will run with the best runners in the world, and you will do so that you could help others. What does that look like, and how does that play out?
Yeah, I had no idea what that was going to look like when I collapsed on the couch and God gave me that word that I would one day run with the best guys in the world, but it was to help other people. Sure, I was going to enjoy the gift, but it was ultimately to love other people and to help other people in some way. And honestly, I didn't know how I was going to do that. I tried some different things. Like when I went to Stanford, I started a Bible study on my team, which was a cool way to kind of engage the guys on my team on spiritual matters and things like that. And then, really, it wasn't until after the Olympics when we got involved with World Vision, and Sarah and I got to do some work with them in promoting clean water in Africa through the Chicago Marathon, that really things started to click and be like, hey, I can use my platform as a runner to change other people's lives. And it was amazing, too, because, I've always had this dream about being a professional runner, and my wife, Sarah, had always had this huge dream about helping people in developing countries. And when we're getting together, it's like you don't know how God's going to combine those passions and use them together to do amazing things. And that's starting to click now, and with the startup of the Hall Steps Foundation.
Well, let's talk about the Steps Foundation, but before we do that, because you're the co-founder of the Steps Foundation with your wife, Sarah, and Sarah is an elite professional runner as well in middle distance. Sarah's here. Would you welcome Sarah Hall up here as well?
Thanks, everyone.
Hold on a second. Don't go getting ahead of me, because I got stories to tell. These guys met when they were in high school and started dating your freshman year at Stanford. Is that right? And then you've been married about 5 years now. Mm-hmm. But Sarah's first memory of Ryan was that he did poorly in a race, ripped his bib off, threw it on the ground, and kicked it. And she said, "That's the man for me." Okay, part of that story is true, right? Hey, Sarah, tell us a little bit about the Steps Foundation that you guys have founded.
Yeah, well, Ryan and I, like you said, going to Zambia was just a huge experience for both of us, and really seeing poverty outside the U.S. borders. And it's something that stays with you forever. It's something we think about every day. When you go to make a decision, looking at the cost of something, or kind of just weighing decisions, it comes to mind, I really do want to make an impact in these areas that need it so badly. And it was really incredible for us to see hope in an area in Africa, because you guys probably all see on TV, the infomercials or different just news coverage of tragedies that are going on there, and it's really easy to feel hopeless and just kind of apathetic about some of the issues that are going on. But Ryan and I, it was incredible when we were in Zambia with World Vision and seeing their projects there, to see the hope there as well, to see people that were getting their basic needs met. They're getting clean water, and it was adding on 30 years to their life expectancy, which was incredible. And so we said, you know what, we want to start an organization where people feel like they can make a difference, that they can take their step in this process. Because just like a marathon, where, Ryan says over the course of his training for a marathon, he takes about 500,000 steps. And so each one of those steps is kind of insignificant in itself, but put together, it creates something incredible like you saw in the video. And so we said, you know, we really want to engage people to say, you know, I can't change the world right now, and maybe finances are tight, but I want to take my step towards this issue. And so we called it the Hall Steps Foundation, and it's taking small steps towards the marathon goal of ending poverty. And so thus far, we've been funding clean water in East Africa, where a lot of our competitors come from, the Kenyan and Ethiopian runners, funding efforts against human trafficking, and also doing stuff here in the U.S. too, because we know there's issues here too. And so we started a running mentoring program targeted at at-risk youth, where their time spent training for a race with a mentor is going to be time where they're also being mentored. And so that actually one thing that we just started was the 26.2 challenge. And our goal is to get 10,000 people to donate $26. And our first grant we're really excited about, it's going towards a hospital in Kenya. And Ryan and I have a friend, Wesley Correa is his name. He's another professional marathoner. Do any of you guys know Wesley in the audience? He won the LA Marathon 2 years in a row, and his brother died of a snake bite when he was young, but it was a very preventable thing, and just because they lived in a town that was miles and miles from a hospital, they didn't have money to take him to the hospital, he died. And so this is in memory of his brother, and so we're really excited. It's only going to take $13,000 to complete this hospital, and so yeah, we're pretty excited. That's our first 26.2 challenge grant.
Sarah, let me interject on this, because Doreen, my wife, and I took the 26 challenge this last week. And one of the things that I was hoping is that throughout this weekend, we're expecting about 3,000 or 4,000 people to come to our services, depending on the weather. But my hope was that we would have 1,000 people this weekend who said, hey, count me in. It's $26. Ryan, in one of your blogs, I think you talked about things like, you know, the easy target is don't have a latte. But you were talking about, how about refilling your water bottle instead of buying one? How about packing your lunch instead of buying one? $26. And I don't know, and I'm maybe you can say that I'm trying to manipulate and use guilt here. I don't care. Because I don't get one penny. This isn't for me or for this church. This is for the foundation and for this hospital. If we could get 1,000 people to do this, $26 between now and April, we could pay for the hospital and then give $13,000 for the next project just from this weekend. I just want to ask, any of you willing to say, I'll take the challenge? All right, all right.
Nice,
okay.
Thank you guys.
Okay, so here's the deal. We got a website, it's in your link. This is it, thestepsfoundation.org. It's also in the link. This isn't coming through our church. This isn't a Cornwall deal. This is for Ryan and Sarah and for the world. And I just want to challenge you. It's $26. And maybe you say, well, I can't afford 26 between now and April. I mean, put away $1 a week, and be a part of that. So I'm holding you to it. Those of you who held your hands up, we have surveillance cameras. We've got all of your, okay. So do this, because I think it'd be cool that because most of us will, I don't think, ever see that hospital, but to know that was funded this weekend here. How cool would that be?
That'd be incredible. And Ryan and I are actually matching the first 1,000 people, so your donation will count twice.
All right.
Thanks.
That's great.